that's a pretty big number, $22 billion. I mean, that would literally run the state of New Hampshire for 3 years or 4 years. But that's not the whole number, because you've got to put it in a 5-year context. It's actually over $200 billion of new discretionary spending, because once you spend that $22 billion this year, it doesn't come out of the budget next year. It goes into what's known as the baseline. It just becomes the floor, and we build on that. Last year, they wanted to spend $22 billion more, too. So over 2 years, they bumped things up, or tried to bump things up, $44 billion. Plus, last year, they put in a supplemental for another $21 billion. I know these numbers are starting to be thrown around like crazy here, but the simple fact is, it's big money. Big money being spent on constituencies that vote for them.
Bullshit.
Chairman of the Budget Committee said, I am prepared to get savings out of long-term entitlement programs. How many savings out of long-term entitlement programs in this budget? 0 net savings. 0. While the deficit in the long-term accounts goes up dramatically, $66 trillion is owed to those accounts that we can't pay for. This budget has $466 billion into those accounts. Staggering amount of money. No attempt to adjust that at all. Now, it's interesting. We will hear from our colleagues on the other side of the aisle. Well, let me go to this one first, and we'll get into that. National debt goes up over $2 trillion under this budget. $2 trillion added to the national debt. My colleagues on the other side, I really believe increasing the debt is the threat. That's one of my Senator Conrad's great phrases. The debt is the threat. I agree with him. One problem is he's aggravating the threat with this budget. Now he doesn't have too much choice because he's spending so much money that we don't have, but he is aggravating the debt. And as a result, the wall of debt charge, that famous wall of debt charge, it goes up. And it goes up dramatically under this budget. Now we will hear from the other side of the aisle, but the president's budget does the same thing, or it's even worse. You know, that is a canard. That's a straw dog. The president does not sign the budget. The president is not part of the budget process other than he has an obligation to send the budget up here for the purposes of our review, which is, depending on the president, uniformly rejected by the party in power. He sends the budget up, he announces what his priorities are, but uniquely, the budget instrument, and this is an important point, is a child of the Congress. It's a child of the Congress. The Congress produces the budget. The Senate produces a budget. The House produces a budget. It goes to conference committee. It comes back to the Senate, comes back to the House. But you know what it doesn't do? As with most laws, it does not go to the president to be signed. He cannot veto a budget. He cannot sign a budget. He simply gets a budget in the form that Congress wants. It's a resolution. It's not a bill. And why is that? Why is that? Because the Founding Fathers, in their wisdom, and the people who put together the Budget Act, some of whom are still here, Senator Byrd and Senator Domenici being two of the key players in that, 1974, 76, I think, knew that the power of the purse, which is what the budget is all about, relies with the Congress. And so the Congress has the first and primary responsibility on the budget. And so when you throw out, well, but the president did this and the president did that, you're just trying to hide in the weeds. The Congress has the responsibility for the budget. It is the Congress that passes the laws that creates the budget.
Amen.
That creates the budget. And the president doesn't sign it at all. So it's the Congress that you should turn to and say, you're the responsible party here. Are you being responsible? And that's the issue. Are you being responsible as a Congress? And this Congress is not being responsible because the big issues that we face as a nation are either being finessed, gained, ignored, or aggravated.